Hello again, YouTubers, on with SpongeBob 101 back here again on the SpongeBob channel. In today's video, we are reviewing episode 10 of Kamp Koral, SpongeBob's Under Years. Specifically, My Fair Nobby and Gimmie a News Break. So let's take a look at the synopsis here. When Nobby becomes too civilized for Narlene, SpongeBob and Patrick help him remember his backwoods ways. And Perch and his pal Harvey report the news of Kamp Koral, but they stumble upon evidence of a ridiculous conspiracy. Without further ado, let's get into the review. My Fair Nobby isn't exactly my favorite episode in Kamp Koral thus far, but let's take a look at what happens here. So, SpongeBob and the campers are doing some knitting, and this is when Narlene shows up to the shock of SpongeBob. She says that basically she is going to contribute to the family feud, and therefore she needs a caretaker for Nobby. There's of course that scene with the Hug Addict sweater, which I thought was really just weird. But anyway, SpongeBob and Patrick volunteer to take care of Nobby while Narlene is away. This doesn't go too well initially because Nobby is super duper hyperactive, and so he causes a lot of trouble even though SpongeBob and Patrick try to calm him down using some camp activities. Now this is probably my favorite part of the episode, and it's not very great either because it's actually a destruction portion of the episode. Nobby hops into a jellyfish and goes around Kamp Koral zapping stuff, and that causes fires to break out all over the camp. So that's lots of chaos right there. However, the chaos suddenly dies down because Nobby goes into the yacht cabin, and SpongeBob and Patrick are quite puzzled as to what has happened. They go take a look, and they find Lady Upturn training Nobby on how to use the utensils. SpongeBob and Patrick are super shocked and amazed at how Nobby has changed so quickly, but regardless, that was pretty funny. They disintegrate after that. So that was funny as well. So then Narlene returns to Kamp Koral after her family feud thingy, and she finds Nobby in a super posh outfit with Squidward painting his portrait as well. Unfortunately, Narlene fails to snap Nobby out of the posh character, so she decides to give up. Just kidding, she doesn't give up. Patrick comes up with an extremely diabolical plan. There's a lot of these random outbursts by Patrick, I realized, in Kamp Koral, where he suddenly goes completely mad, or not necessarily mad, but he goes into a very angry state and comes up with a crazy plan. In this case, it is to stuff Nobby in a bag and reprogram him, essentially. This was kind of shocking, but yet a little bit funny as well. So strange how Patrick does this. Perhaps Kid Patrick is a lot more violent than adult Patrick. They do carry out their plan and try to reprogram Nobby by getting him to do things that he usually did in the past, like chewing on his favorite chewing tree. However, Nobby ain't having any of it. He's not gonna chew on a tree, he's gonna use his fork and knife to cut pieces of the tree off and eat it. Also, sugar squeeze doesn't work on Nobby, unfortunately. Nobby prefers warm water with a hint of lemon. So again, this fails, right? And so Narlene makes the tough decision. Instead of trying to make Nobby less posh, she is going to become posh herself. So of course she needs a makeover, and SpongeBob is the tailor here, but there's this part where SpongeBob stitches himself to the fabric, and I thought this is really silly, but then this doesn't change, like it's not rectified, because it turns out eventually that SpongeBob is still part of Narlene's dress, which I thought was really ridiculous. It was upside down and stuck to Narlene's butt, so that's just weird and absolutely no for me. Anyways, Patrick goes over to the yacht cabin to introduce the new and improved fancy Narlene. I really found the part where Patrick was trying to swap between expressions or moods so hilarious. Like, he was suddenly acting fancy, and then he took the violin and blew on it. Obviously, that's not how you play a violin. But regardless, Nobby and the rest of the yacht cabin folks are pretty amazed at Narlene's transformation. However, it turns out that this entire charade was a prank by Nobby to get an embarrassing photo of Narlene, and this means that Nobby isn't actually going to be permanently fancy, which is great for Narlene, I guess. But yeah, so At the end of the day, Narlene decides that Nobby is good enough to participate in a family feud, so that's what they're going to do. I really did like the parts where Nobby was speaking in King Neptune's English, according to Lady Upturn. Those are pretty funny as well, and overall I'll give this episode a 6.5 out of 10 because aside from the funny parts, I didn't like this episode too much because, again, it's centered around Narlene and Nobby. And I don't like those two characters. It's probably just me. I don't know about you guys, but if you guys don't like Narlene or Nobby, comment box below. I'd love to see how many people share the same opinion. Okay, so Gimmie and Newsbreak I thought was slightly better than My Fair Nobby, and it's because of the main plot. Now, this episode focuses on Perch and Harvey. I thought it was really good because, you know, all these episodes, they're slowly focusing on various characters in Kamp Koral, and that is something I like to see. You know, it's not necessary to continually focus on the main characters, SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Squidward, or Mr. Krabs. So in this episode, basically, they're trying to put on the show, the Kamp Koral news, and Harvey keeps having outbursts of Martians are coming. So basically, he's the kooky conspiracy theorist of Kamp Koral. There are a cool couple of scenes like Kamp Koral weather, when the tall guy goes into the camp and starts getting zapped by lightning. Poor guy. And then there's also a rather funny segment where Mr. Krabs is trying to advertise the camp store, and then he subsequently focuses on yams. I'm not sure what the joke is here. Like, why is he advertising yams? I mean, is it supposed to just be silly or nonsensical? Because he's like, with every yam you purchase, you get a free nematode. And if you don't want to eat the yam, the nematode will eat it. I'm just like, wait, what? I mean, okay. Isn't there something else you could be advertising? But I digress. So, Sandy then shows off her new rocket that's also a volcano. And after it launches, it gives Harvey even more impetus to call Sandy a Martian, because Sandy basically says that she's from up there, right? So Harvey thinks that she's a Martian. And then we hop over to the arts and crafts fair. This segment I thought was pretty funny as well, because Squidward was being super negative on the kids' paintings. Honestly, what are you supposed to expect from kids? Like, one of them was 5 years old, so I'm not sure what you could expect from kids. But regardless, they all gang up on him and beat him up, with one of the kids saying like, too many legs. So yeah, poor Squidward, but I guess he really deserved that one. Okay, so then we go over to Mrs. Puff's lighthouse, and this is when the conspiracy theory kicks into high gear, and they put on their tinfoil hats because they see Mrs. Puff loading what looks to be a replica Mrs. Puff into the canoe. And so they go full conspiracy theory mode. And of course, again, SpongeBob and Patrick are still panicking about the so-called Martians, right? They eventually stumble upon the boathouse in Kamp Koral, which is filled to the brim with a whole bunch of Kamp Koral camper replicas. And they think that a Martian invasion is at hand. So they decide to quickly warn everyone, and they just find a whole bunch of those replicas littered around Kamp Koral, except for Mr. Krabs, who is still in his yams mode, and again, really dumb. I don't know why he was doing that, but in this episode, I really thought Mr. Krabs was so creepy. Eventually, they find even replicas of themselves, and so it is up to them to destroy the Martians before they get him. And I'm not sure how they didn't notice, but they were literally beating the replicas up, and all that came out of them was candy. So could you not see that? But regardless, they fully destroy all of the replicas, and just when they thought they did the camp a great service, they get yelled at by Sandy and get surrounded by the campers. It turns out that all those replicas were piñatas, and they were there for Piñata Day. So it turns out the Martian hoax was really a hoax. So this silly portion ends off with Mrs. Puff sanctioning all the kids to beat Perch and Harvey up. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen. No adult should be sanctioning violence by kids against kids, but that's what literally happened. Okay, so the episode ends in the evening. Now Perch and Harvey are sitting on the boardwalk, and they're just talking about how they were so ridiculous to believe that Martians were a thing. And this is when a piñata spaceship comes by and starts abducting them. And this is the point where they actually believe that the Martians are real and all that. and this is captured on film. Overall, I will give this episode a 7 out of 10. I really like to focus on Perch and Harvey, but again, although I find Perch a pretty cool character, I thought Harvey was he's not a very interesting character. He's just a really kooky guy. You know, he's really kooky, and all he thinks about is just that one single conspiracy theory. So he tries to link everything around him to that theory, which I thought was really shallow. And yeah, I'm not a fan of Harvey. So, although if there were any more episodes about Kamp Koral news, I would definitely like to see just perhaps have less yams. Mr. Krabs, please don't advertise yams. So yeah, that's the episode. So feel free to comment in the box below. What do you think about My Fair Nobby and Gimme a News Break? I'd love to hear your opinions. Make sure to subscribe, like, favorite, comments, etc. Keep right here on Autumn SpongeBob 101, and I'll see you guys in the next SpongeBob video. Bye!